Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really jumping into the deep end with an idea that might just shift how you think about strength.
Definitely.
We're talking mental toughness, but not like, a weekend workshop kind of thing.
No, not at all.
It's a lifestyle,
Yeah.
a relentless everyday practice. Imagine, just for a second, that your biggest struggles, your own personal hell, could actually be your best teacher.
Right. And that things like failure, disappointment, real discomfort, they aren't setbacks. They're tools, really potent tools for learning.
It's a challenging thought, isn't it? Makes you rethink your whole relationship with, well, with pain.
It really does. And what we're exploring today is this incredible journey of one individual, someone who didn't just, survive a childhood filled with abuse and
She
struggle.
transformed it.
Exactly. Transformed it, forged it into this bedrock of, honestly, almost unbelievable mental strength.
So our mission here is to unpack that, to
Yeah.
get into the maybe uncomfortable truths behind his drive, his almost radical embrace of discomfort.
And crucially, how he took every insecurity, every weakness he felt he had, and used it. Used it as fuel for just immense growth.
Yeah. We want to figure out what you, listening right now, can maybe take from a life lived so far beyond what most people think is possible, a life that really pushes this idea of constant self-improvement over, looking for praise or validation from others.
And the source material for this deep dive, it's this incredibly raw, detailed conversation he had. He really laid bare his personal experiences and these, well, unconventional philosophies that shaped him.
So let's get into it. Okay, so first off, it's kind of fascinating that this person who's now pretty public initially wanted zero attention, like total anonymity.
Absolutely. He was apparently just weeks from retiring from the military when a book first mentioned him, or rather his methods.
And he didn't want that.
No, he preferred to keep it private. He genuinely believed his strength came from solitude, from his own internal battles, not from the spotlight.
Privacy was like a requirement for strength for him.
That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
He said quite clearly he didn't even want his name used in that first book. His whole mindset was different. Strength came from being alone, avoiding what he called looky-loos.
Huh. Looky lose.
Yeah, people just watching, not doing the work themselves. The idea of social media questions, being a public figure, that was actively repellent to him. It felt like it would dilute his process, his way of building strength, of preparing for life's hits. He just wasn't wired for sharing.
But then things changed. Something shifted. He called it an awakening.
Right. He started getting flooded with emails,
Yeah.
just tons of them. Deeply personal messages from people all over.
And they connected with his story.
Incredibly specific ways. They saw themselves in part of his dungeon, as he calls it. His struggles with obesity or being bullied relentlessly, the frustration of a learning disability, the trauma of an abusive childhood. It wasn't just general "I relate," it was specific pain finding an echo.
Wow. A torrent of shared suffering, as our notes put it.
And that was the turning point. He realized that his experiences, his hell, which felt totally normal to him because it was just his life,
Right. Just what he lived through.
that specific reality was exactly what so many other people needed to hear. His hell could be a teaching tool, a powerful one. He saw, maybe for the first time, that his raw, brutal honesty could actually be a source of real inspiration for others stuck in their own struggles.
And that realization basically forced him to reconsider his whole stance on privacy, didn't it?
Completely. It went against his grain, his desire for quiet strength, but he couldn't ignore the potential impact.
He uses this amazing metaphor for it, that clip from Rocky, round
Right.
14.
Yeah, the 2 minutes and 13 seconds.
And he emphasizes it's not about Rocky winning, it's about him getting back up after getting knocked down. Hard.
That specific image, seeing it when he was personally at a really low point, just crystallized everything for him. That's what he needed to be. Not the guy who always wins, but the guy who just keeps getting
That
after
visual
it.
became his guide.
And what's really powerful is how he then flipped that personal insight outward. He thought, okay, if 2 minutes of a movie could change my life, give me a path I couldn't see.
Then maybe his story could do that for someone else.
Exactly. Maybe his unvarnished truth could be that crucial 2 minutes for somebody else who's struggling, somebody looking for that spark to just shift their perspective, find the will to get up again.
It's realizing that while some people are comfortable, a lot aren't. A lot are actively looking for something, some narrative, to help them.
He saw himself as potentially being that narrative, not for ego, but for impact.
Yeah, it wasn't about making himself feel better, like some kind of public therapy. It was about being better, having a bigger impact. which ties into this teacher's imperative idea he has.
Right? This core belief that we're all teachers, in a way. And if you learn something valuable, especially through struggle, and you just keep it to yourself,
You're wasting it. Wasting your life, even.
it's a strong stance, almost confrontational. But that conviction basically forced him to find a middle ground, a happy medium, he calls it.
Between the privacy he craved and this responsibility he now felt.
Yeah. He had to reconcile that deep need for solitude with this powerful urge to share what he'd learned, to potentially help more people. He knew some would dismiss him, call him extreme, whatever.
But for the ones who needed to hear it,
For them, it was worth stepping into that uncomfortable public space.
mm-hmm.
He felt it would be like an unforgivable waste to have gone through his own hell and not offer that experience as a potential lifeline for someone else in the dark.
Okay, so to really grasp where this immense mental strength comes from, we have to go back, way back to his childhood. And frankly, it sounds like hell on earth.
It's hard to even fathom. He describes it as a boyhood under constant siege, severe, relentless physical and emotional abuse from his father.
Towards him, his brother, his mother.
Everyone. Constant torment. He talks about being whipped sometimes with an extension cord until he literally couldn't breathe, just collapsing.
Right.
And maybe even more disturbing is how he describes watching his mother change. He remembers her as being like Mary Poppins, initially sweet, nurturing,
And the abuse changed her.
turned her into what he calls a stoic shell, just devoid of emotion. Her spirit was systematically broken down. It's chilling. What's really staggering is that he says this level of violence and fear, it felt normal to him growing up. He didn't know anything else.
That was his reality.
Yeah. And this constant hostility created severe toxic stress. It messed with his focus, his ability to learn. It just filled him with this deep, pervasive fear of everything. He said by 8 years old, his mind felt like a 40-year-old's.
Constantly standing for danger.
Always hypervigilant, trying to anticipate the next blow, trying to avoid more abuse. It wasn't a childhood, it was just survival. Constant, exhausting survival mode.
And you mentioned the irony of their street name, Paradise Road.
Yeah, Paradise Road.
Yeah.
Such a contrast to the reality behind closed doors. His father was apparently charming to the outside world. Nice suits, always smiling, charismatic.
People liked him.
Oh, yeah. Your dad's amazing. Great guy. That's what people would say. But inside the house, the devil himself came out, as he put it. That daily terror was the backdrop of his youth. It beat him down, physically and psychologically.
Yeah.
It was constant warfare in his own home.
And on top of that horror, he had other struggles too, right? Academically.
Big time.
Yeah.
He mentions being dyslexic. Severely. He had like a second grade reading level when he was in 8th grade.
Imagine that in school. The shame.
Exactly. It hugely contributed to him feeling stupid and insecure. And his father's constant verbal abuse just hammered that home. You're dumb. You're nobody. That became his internal soundtrack.
So the home environment and the school struggles just reinforced each other.
Perfectly. It created this deeply ingrained self-belief that he was dumb, that he wasn't capable, and that belief started driving his actions.
And then there's racism, bullying.
Yeah, adding another layer of trauma. He talks about horrific experiences with racism, having racial slurs spray painted on his car in Indiana near a known KKK area.
Seriously, in the 90s.
He said in 1995, just 10 minutes away, they were still burning crosses. These constant attacks, the prejudice, the bullying, it led him to feel like the whole town, even the whole world, hated him.
It wasn't just a few bad apples. It felt systemic.
Completely, it cemented that internal narrative of worthlessness.
So you have the abuse at home, the learning disability, the racism, the bullying. It's overwhelming.
It is. But here's the crucial realization he came to later. The absolute hardest obstacle wasn't any of those external things.
It was himself, his own mind.
Exactly, his own internal dialogue. He couldn't control his father or the racists or the bullies, but their voices became his voice. His father, this insecure alcoholic, was brilliant at psychological warfare, always tearing people down to make himself feel powerful.
He internalized, I'm dumb, I'm nobody.
Completely. That negative self-talk became his reality. That's why he started cheating in school, lying, always looking for the easy way out, because deep down he genuinely believed he wasn't capable of succeeding through honest effort. He thought, why bother trying?
So where did the shift begin? How did he start moving towards self-mastery? It sounds like it started with even more tragedy, actually.
Yeah, a real convergence of crises. His mother's fiancée was murdered. She was devastated, working 3 jobs, just barely coping.
And he was supposed to be the man of the house.
Right, but he was, in his own words, a mess. obese, lying, cheating, avoiding school, living a total deception. A fraud, really.
And his mother, she gave him some tough love.
Well, it was more like unintentional tough reality. She was in her own dark place, completely overwhelmed. She just told him straight up, you're going to fail school. You're going to be a statistic.
Wow. No, it'll be okay.
No, none of that. They were both just surviving in their own separate hells, even in the same house. But that raw honesty, devoid of any comfort, was maybe the push he needed. It forced him to realize, truly realize, I am on my own.
Nobody's coming to save me.
Precisely. I have to figure this out. And that stark clarity, terrifying as it must have been, led him to make a decision. He decided to join the military.
But that wasn't straightforward either, was it? The entrance exam.
The ASVAB, yeah, another major hurdle. Because of the dyslexia, and because he built this lifelong habit of cheating and avoiding real effort.
He failed it.
Twice. It was this unavoidable confrontation with his own weaknesses. No more hiding, no more easy way out. He had to face it head on.
That must have been brutal, but necessary.
Absolutely critical. He had one last shot at the test. He knew he needed help. His old tricks wouldn't cut it. His mom somehow scraped together money for a tutor, just an hour a week for 6 months.
Did that work?
Not in the conventional sense. He quickly saw that even with a tutor, his dyslexia meant he couldn't learn like other people. So this is where his own method really started. This is where he began forging his own intellect.
How? What did he do?
He bought spiral notebooks, hundreds of them apparently, and he just started writing everything down, over and over and over, words, concepts, facts, until his hand cramped, until his brain felt fried.
That sounds incredibly laborious.
It was. What took someone else an hour might take him 6, 8, even 10 hours of just relentless grinding repetition, day after day. He admits he wasn't learning it like you or I might understand learning.
He was memorizing it, recalling it.
Exactly. He developed this amazing capacity for recall through sheer rote memorization, linking info to page numbers in his mind, just filling notebook after notebook at the kitchen table. That sheer stubborn effort, that was where, as he says, the disciplined individual got really invented.
That's where the warrior was born.
You could say that. In those quiet, grueling hours with the notebooks.
It sounds awful, but also kind of like a gift in disguise. He talks about his mother's role in this, how her not helping was actually the best help.
Yeah, it's paradoxical, isn't it? He says the greatest lesson she taught him was by not rescuing him, by never picking him up, never saying, it'll be okay. She just didn't have it in her. She was struggling too much herself.
So she accidentally forced him to be self-reliant.
Completely. She inadvertently prepared him for the harsh realities. Because she never softened the blows, never coddled him, he learned early on that life sucks and it's not a nice place.
So his past wasn't an excuse, it was training.
The ultimate training ground, he calls it. It inoculated him against disappointment, prepared him for failure. Instead of seeing his past as a reason to give up, he saw it as the very thing that forged him, that readied him for anything. And that's why, from then on, he deliberately chose the hard path.
The path of most resistance.
Always. He learned to seek out the discomfort because that's where he knew the building happened. #, the philosophy of discomfort and relentless self-improvement.
Okay, so this really gets to the heart of his whole philosophy, doesn't it? This deliberate, almost defiant embrace of discomfort, structured pain even.
Absolutely. It's foundational. He sees it as non-negotiable for growth. And his discipline is just staggering. He hasn't missed a workout in over 2 decades.
20 years.
Over 20 years, including active recovery, but never just skipping. It's an unbroken chain of commitment to doing hard things.
That's incredible. And it flies in the face of how most of us think, right? We're always looking for the recovery day, the break.
Exactly. And he really challenges that mindset. He argues that this constant search for comfort, for recovery, before you've even really pushed yourself, that actively prevents growth.
Get over the recovery day, it's not coming.
That's his line. It sounds hardcore, maybe even masochistic to some ears. But his point is that real change, lasting transformation, only happens when you consistently push past that urge for ease, when you choose the harder option, when you force your body and mind to adapt through sustained effort.
The moment you prioritize comfort, growth stops.
That's the essence of it. And this ties directly into how he views confidence.
Right, not from praise or easy wins.
No, real, authentic, unshakable confidence isn't built by telling yourself nice things or getting pats on the back. It's forged by looking your deepest insecurities right in the eye.
Owning them.
Owning them completely, and then building yourself up, piece by painful piece. Through relentless, undeniable hard work, his own transformation from being 300 pounds and deeply insecure to, well, who he is now.
It's living proof.
It's the ultimate proof. He says, I made this person by diving into the insecurities life gave me. If you feel dumb, call yourself dumb. If you feel fat, call yourself fat. Face that raw truth. But then, use that honesty as the most powerful fuel you can imagine to change it.
That brutal honesty leads to this idea of a live autopsy, right?
Yeah. This constant daily self-examination, almost surgical. He argues pretty forcefully that real happiness, peace, enlightenment, it doesn't come from stuff. Not cars, money, awards.
He mentions even billionaires feeling empty if they haven't done this work.
Exactly. They might have everything externally, but if they haven't faced themselves, truly faced themselves, something's missing. The answers, he insists, are all up here in your own mind. You just need the courage, the sheer guts to go in there and confront it all. Your demons, weaknesses, failures, potential.
That internal confrontation is the key, not external stuff.
For him, it's the only key to real fulfillment.
Now let's talk about this 40% rule. This is a big one.
Huge. It's this belief he has that most of us, when things get hard, we stop way too early. We hit about 40% of what we're actually capable of.
We feel discomfort and just bail.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
He uses the example of a military prep program he was involved with, training guys who were physically absolute specimens for SEAL training.
Strong dudes.
Incredibly strong. But the same number kept quitting day after day.
Why?
Because they were just bigger, stronger, faster quitters. They hadn't built the mental strength.
Physical strength wasn't enough.
Not even close.
Yeah.
He realized they weren't building mental fortitude. And that's something you can't just, get in a weekend course. It's lived every day.
So when the real pain hits,
people default to their insecurities. They look for comfort, an escape, a cookie, he calls it. His whole approach is, in that moment of hell, when you think you've got nothing left, that's when the real training begins. You have to consciously retrain your brain to think differently, to push way past that 40% wall.
dive into the dungeon of your mind.
Face the negative self-talk, build the mental callus, don't look for the cookie. It's about overriding that deep-seated need for comfort.
And fear. His view on fear is completely flipped.
Totally inverted. It's not a stop sign for him anymore, it's a compass, his ultimate guide.
Pointing where he needs to go.
Exactly. If something makes him feel that fear, that discomfort, that's the next thing he needs to tackle, to conquer, to integrate into his growth. It's almost like he hunts fear down. This redefinition of fear is just central to everything. He deliberately seeks out things that scare him or make him uncomfortable because he knows, absolutely knows, that's where the growth is, right at the edge of his capabilities.
Which leads to his greatest fear.
Getting comfortable, that feeling of, I've arrived.
That's the danger zone.
The ultimate danger zone. He believes reaching that point of comfort is basically the death of the resilient self he worked so hard to build. He calls that resilient self the creature from the Black Lagoon. This entity that thrives in the muck, in the discomfort, in the sewer of life's challenges. So for him, the moment things feel easy, it's time to fall back down that damn mountain and find the next climb.
Because stagnation is decline.
There's no middle ground. You're either growing or you're shrinking. That creature dies in comfort.
So, okay, how does this translate into daily life? It's clearly not just theory for him. It sounds like a relentless daily battle.
Daily combat is a good way to put it. He lives at like 99% potential, constantly. The daily regimen is intense.
Like what?
Minimum hour-and-a-half run every morning, rain, shine, freezing cold, doesn't matter. Then a hard gym workout. And then 2 to 3 hours of stretching every single night.
Hours of stretching. Why so much?
Apparently he had a health issue years ago, tied to lifelong emotional stress. The stretching became non-negotiable. He says he's only missed 2 days in over 5 years. It's just total commitment.
Wow. And this morning routine, it's not just about fitness.
Not primarily. He calls it building his armor. He sees life, the moment you walk out the door, as combat. Full of disappointments, attacks, frustrations. It's inevitable.
So he prepares for it first thing.
Exactly. By conquering himself first, by doing the hard things he committed to before the sun's even fully up, by pushing past that 40%, he's building that internal armor. He faces the day's battles from a position of already having won his first fight.
Instead of starting defeated, hitting snooze.
Right. Unlike people who start the day late, disorganized, already feeling behind, he's preparing for combat before the first enemy even appears.
And he actively seeks ways to stay grounded, right? To go back to scratch.
Yes, constantly resetting his perspective. He told this amazing story about working as a wildland firefighter when he was 43.
43, making minimum wage.
$12 an hour, digging fire lines on mountains for weeks straight. Brutal, dangerous work. He didn't need the money, obviously. He did it for the experience, for the perspective shift.
What did that teach him?
It keeps him connected to what real effort feels like.
Mm.
He shared this simple story about a young guy on the crew, 21 years old, wanting new running shoes.
Okay.
But then the kid looked at the mountain they had been digging on, felt the exhaustion, did the math, 5 or 6 hours of that back-breaking work for those shoes.
And he decided against them.
Yeah, he said, these old shoes will do just fine. That, for our subject, is the value of going back to scratch, maintaining perspective, appreciating effort, not getting soft when life gets easier. You have to keep revisiting that hard place in your mind.
Never get too far from the blind.
Never. It raises your baseline for what's hard.
And his view on goals.
Yep.
Well, it's very long-term, focused on delayed gratification, like that Badwater race story.
Oh, yeah, the 135-mile race
Right.
across Death Valley. He had to drop out years ago due to illness. Hasn't raced it since.
But he's still thinking about it? Training for it?
For years, he hopes to go back. Maybe even win. But the point isn't just the win.
It's the journey, the years of effort.
Exactly. He says the real satisfaction isn't the 1 second crossing the finish line. It's the 12 years, or however long it takes, of relentless effort, the discipline, the suffering endured, the quiet perseverance leading to that moment.
That's where the real value is.
That's the real reward, the internal transformation along the way. If he'd only focused on the trophy, he'd have missed all the lessons, the mental calluses built during the setbacks, the unseen training. That sustained effort is the prize.
He talks about this moment after a 100-mile race where he felt he cracked the code to human potential. What was that?
It was a moment of extreme suffering. In a tub, totally depleted, passing out, body shutting down. People around him were panicking and wanted to get him to a hospital.
I know.
His first thought, barely conscious, was to call the race director to confirm he'd qualified for the next, even harder race. His mind was already on the next challenge, not the current pain. What he found there, right at his absolute limit, was this incredible calm, this resolve. Life had him by the throat, choking him out. And he wasn't panicking or quitting. He was just figuring out a way through it.
The suffering itself was the key.
He didn't want it numbed. It was like data, proofs that he had unlocked something indestructible inside, a realization found in total solitude and pain, confirming you can overcome anything if you refuse to give yourself an out, if you commit to the fire.
And underpinning all this is just raw authenticity.
Fierce authenticity. He absolutely lives by his words. He feels he has no right to talk about overcoming hardship if he's not doing it himself. Constantly. Recently.
That code of ethics fuels him.
Totally. It gives his message weight. He said when people comment on his passionate speaking, it's because talking about it makes him relive it. It's not a comfortable life. This life was made. This life was earned. Every word comes from that lived experience.
Which connects to mental callousing. It's not a one-time thing.
No, it's a lifestyle. He explicitly compares it to a muscle. If you stop lifting, you get weak. If you stop pushing your mental limits, that ability to suffer, to endure, it atrophies. It fades.
You have to keep exercising it.
Constantly recall it, practice it, test it. If he stopped now, sought comfort, all that hard-won toughness would vanish. He'd have to dig deep to get it back. He does the hard daily things because he remembers vividly what not doing them leads to back to being that soft, insecure person he fought so hard to leave behind.
All right, as we wrap up this deep dive, let's try and boil down some core lessons, his 3 truths. The first one is fascinating, learning from his father, but in reverse.
Yeah, the inverse mentorship. Learning how not to be.
How did he manage that, turning such trauma into a lesson?
It took immense self-analysis as an adult, looking back, not as a victim, but almost like a detached observer, examining his father as a man. He saw the deep insecurity behind the cruelty.
Understood the source of the behavior.
Right. Realizing his father's meanness, his womanizing, all of it, it came from this insecure, dark, dark place. And understanding that allowed him to grasp why people act destructively, why they try to break others down.
And that led to empathy.
Amazingly, yes. Because he saw the insecurity driving his father, he now says, I judge no one. He assumes negative behavior often comes from someone else's internal struggle. It allows him to view negativity with a certain calm detachment, instead of just reacting with anger.
Which ties into how he handles negativity now, right? Like road rage or online hate.
Perfectly. He doesn't react instantly anymore. The old him would have fought back, escalated everything.
But now,
Now, through all that internal work, building the armor, he pauses. He assesses. He has this internal throttle, he says. He decides consciously, rationally, is this worth my energy? Does this require a level 3 angry response, or can I just let it go?
it's moving from reaction to conscious choice.
A profound shift. Applying a mental rating program to potential conflicts. It shows incredible mastery over his own emotional responses, instead of being controlled by external events. Mastery built through years of that internal combat.
Okay, so his 3 core truths, the takeaways. First, you are your own hero.
Yeah, this is powerful. He argues we waste so much energy idolizing others, trying to be like them, and we lose ourselves in the process.
And risk disappointment when our heroes turn out to be human.
Exactly. They're flawed, just like us. True power, he says, comes from holding yourself accountable, relentlessly, focusing only on being the best version of you. Stop looking outside for answers or validation. It's all within.
Second truth, never pick the easy road.
This is maybe his most consistent message. The path of least resistance. It's doom, he says. It offers quick fixes, temporary comfort, but zero lasting results. No character building.
While the hard road.
That's where permanent results happen. It calluses you everywhere, physically, mentally. It builds enduring strength, lasting transformation. It's the only path that truly changes you.
And the third truth, maybe the toughest, you're not there yet.
Yeah. This one keeps you on your toes. He warns that the second you feel like you've arrived, like you've made it, you're comfortable, that's when you should be genuinely scared.
Because there's no staying the same.
No neutral ground.
Yeah.
You're either improving or declining. Stagnation is decline. So his advice, fall back down that damn mountain as fast as you can and start climbing again. Find the next challenge immediately.
The journey never ends.
Never. Growth demands constant effort, constant discomfort.
And this leads to his definition of greatness. It's not about winning.
No. For him, true greatness is being haunted by the times you didn't give your absolute best. Being able to recall those moments you fell short, analyze them ruthlessly, learn from them, and commit to never making that same mistake, never leaving potential untapped again.
Turning failure into the ultimate fuel for improvement.
Precisely. It's about that relentless self-awareness and the drive to always, always demand more from yourself. Never settling.
So, as we finish up, a thought for everyone listening. Reflect on this incredible story. Consider your own life. What's your dungeon? What's that uncomfortable place, that past struggle or present discomfort, that $7 a month place, metaphorically, that you're maybe avoiding?
And what might happen if you stopped avoiding it? If you decided to lean into it, to make it your ultimate training ground? What if you committed right now to never taking the easy way out again?
How might embracing your own challenges, facing those insecurities head-on, unlock a potential inside you that you never even knew was there?
The ideas we touched on today are explored much more deeply in his own account. It's a powerful read about defying odds and mastering your own mind.
Definitely worth checking out. Go out there and start building your armor. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.